DCM works. The Spine is still my favorite. Hey guys, welcome back to the Art for Artist podcast, official podcast of Digital and Creative Media Works. My name is David, DCM, creative director, lead writer, joined as always by my co-host, Ben.
That whole intro's turned into just one big word.
Look, yeah, it's not really sounds anymore, it's just like a slur.
It's just a mix of syllables next to each other.
I feel like at this point, it's pretty much worthless as, like, English language, but that's okay.
You wouldn't pass many phonetics classes with that.
I would probably get, like, a C-. Maybe.
You get marks for trying.
Well, that's really all I'm going for. And today we're talking about the world building of Vice Quadrant.
Before long, they will build a city along all the sky and anchor it tight to this rock so we can sail right out of here. Phone nights fade right into our existence as we travel up the tethers, start to float a little as we reach our end.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Vice Quadrant is a music album by the band Steam Powered Giraffe.
The incredible band.
Whom we love, who we've talked about before. So, like, Ben, what's, like, the basic premise of the band? Yeah, we talked about it during our, like, best of last year, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, what's the basic premise of the band for people who don't know?
It's a bunch of, like, mimes turned musicians.
Yeah.
Who, and they perform... They're best seen live, or at least in person.
They've got some, like, concerts up on their YouTube channel you can watch.
And they have, like, incredible face paint and, like, costumes, and they basically dress up like robots.
Yeah.
And, like...
And they play the characters of the robots.
They play their characters.
Playing music.
Yeah, and, like, even seeing them perform, like, the motions they make, because they're mimes, or at least they've done that training, they're really good at, like, portraying... these different types of robots. So there's 3 current members. There's I don't know their real names, but I know their robot names. So there's
you tell me the robot names. I'll tell you the real
Spine,
names, which is David Michael Bennett.
There's Rabbit. Is it still
Bunny,
Rabbit?
Yeah, Rabbit. So that's Bunny Bennett. Yep.
And then there's Hatchworth,
which is Sam Luke.
And then there's the side characters like Steve.
Yeah, Steve Negretti.
Steve, their sound
and then
guy.
Gigi the giraffe.
And there's like
the Walter
other
girls.
Yeah, those two.
There's like a few sort of
side characters.
Yeah.
And they have this whole sort of mythos behind their characters ever since like the John left.
Yeah.
Who was like one of their ex-members who no one really liked.
He was sort of one of the he sort of formed a band with them, but he was a little like it's really complicated.
He was definitely one of the different characters.
Yeah,
he wasn't interesting, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, he just kind of didn't. Yeah, but so he left, and then Hatchworth joined.
Who was the best addition to the band.
Yeah, and he was previously a drummer with the band. But like the premise with each album is that like it's the robots. Like it changes album to album and song to song, but the basic premise is that it usually follows like an overarching world that exists that the robots exist in.
Yeah,
and they're singing about stuff that's happening.
Yeah, and some of their songs. They're like...
Some of them exist outside of that, where it's the robots singing about the robots in the world, and some of them are... They don't even
Some of them, they're like robots. Singing about other characters. Other characters in the universe. Like
some of them are just stories about, like, from that world that aren't even happening or haven't happened.
And some of them are just stupid.
Yeah, some of them are just, like, one-off weird
Some
things.
of them are just dumb. Yeah.
But, like, the great thing about Vice Quadrant is it's like... It's like a space opera. Like, the main story is this, like, really cool space opera thing.
Yeah.
And it's super weird and cool and very confusing. Like
I think it's more confusing because of the format that they've sort of presented it in. It's these like sort of semi-connected songs.
Yeah.
Each which have their own sort of different sound.
But you have to like find...
And you really have to dig into the lyrics to find the connections.
I've been listening to it for like 6 months now, and I've finally got my head around like...
I've been listening to about a week.
Yeah. Like I've got most of the story of... There's like 3 stories that are happening.
Yeah.
And I've got most of it. Like I'm across most of it. But like even still, there's stuff that I don't quite understand. And I think that kind of speaks to like how complex what they're doing is.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool... Like, yeah, I don't know.
It's the album, like, not all their albums are like this. MK2 MK3?
MK. So it's
album before the Vice Quadrant.
MK3
was
Mark
sort
III.
of the first album which they started putting a story behind. So MK3 is sort of like an origin.
Yes, but it's sort of like the other albums. They had stories about the album in their comics and stuff, but the albums themselves didn't contain stories.
The albums were more the sort of starting point.
Yeah, whereas now, like since MK3, that actually had the story in it.
Yeah.
And as well as the comics, and now Vice Quadrant is like the next step of that, where the whole thing tells different stories that are kind of interwoven.
Yeah, so there's it's like a whole set of like different stories and different mediums. Like it's like a comic series, which is drawn by Bunny.
It's Bunny and Sam. Yeah, they do that. And then
And
you've got the music, and then you've got the actual stage performances.
Yeah, like
where,
even
where the stage, because the stage performances it's like as if the band were in. It's like as if you were going to see the band in their world. So they act as the robots that are going to, like, they're not the musicians dressed as the robots playing music. They're the robots.
No, they are the robot. Yeah,
playing as if they were playing in the robot's world.
And in all of their like sort of live streams and YouTube channels, they keep the personas.
Yeah, the characters exist in them.
They don't go like Daft Punk levels of keeping the secrecy and literally never showing their real faces.
No,
they're a bit more lax than that.
Well,
but
I think it's a little more interesting because of that.
Because they separate the characters from themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like it's this really weird, like watching them do rehearsals, because they live stream rehearsals sometimes, and when they like, you can see the moment where they switch into character.
Yeah,
and it's really cool.
It's really funny.
So bizarre.
Because they're all like when you see them for the first time and you watch them and then you see them without the makeup, you're like, holy shit. Whoa. This is crazy. It's so different.
It's so different.
Especially like Hatchworth easily has the most hectic sort of face paint makeup,
it's pretty crazy.
Prosthetics.
And even like
sort of hats.
Yeah, the hats. Well, Bonnie has a new awesome hat that she's got that's like super rad. But even like, just the complexity of like the costumes and stuff is crazy. Like the spine has like an actual spine now that pokes out, like a titanium spine on his clothes and stuff. And like they have these characters that they built up over the years, and then like they've spent these 3 albums building them up. And in the Vice Quadrant, they kind of take these characters and like, okay, well, let's tell some stories about them.
Yeah.
And it's this really cool thing because there's like 3 stories, right? So the basic story that's happening is that the robots exist on Earth that exists in the Vice Quadrant, which is like the space area.
Yeah.
So this robot arrives at Earth. And contacts the robots and is like, I need your help. There's this space giant out there, and there's this planet that I've been sent to go and like make a new home for my people, and this space giant is like, he's like eating the planet. I need your help.
Yeah,
because he demands to see steam powered giraffe. Like the space giant is like he's this transdimensional god, and he's like, I demand to see steam powered giraffe because
he's a mega fan.
Yeah, because he's a mega fan, but in his world, in his dimension, they've gone away forever. Like the band has disappeared.
Yeah.
So he's like, I've come to see one final show before I go back home because they don't exist in my world.
All of their stories are absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So that's like the common thread is that they're all super stupid.
Yeah. So they transform. They transform
the robot into a ship.
Wink into a spaceship, and then the rest of the story until the ending takes place where they're on the ship and they're telling stories to each other while they're on the ship.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some of those stories are actually happening. So then you got the second story, which is Commander Cosmo, who is like Space Superman, right? So he's like he's like born during like there's like a space shuttle that catches on fire.
Yeah.
The microphone has gone wonky, by the way. I don't know what that's about.
What do you mean?
Well, your pop filter. You're too high. I just leave it. No, don't. It's fine. Fuck. Now you're gonna breathe into it.
David.
Whatever. It's fine.
It's fine. Until live.
So he's like a space Superman. Who like he like saves, because like the whole point of the Vice Quadrant is that it's full of like big bads.
Yeah.
Like villains and like crazy space shit, and Commander Cosmo protects Earth, right? So, but then I think this is the bit I'm really unclear on. I think his wife or his daughter or someone like that dies because he lives forever because he's like a super space god hero. So then he like goes into like a dark star and like hibernates or whatever. But it turns out to be a prison of this giant space whale thing.
Yeah.
So then the third story that's happening at the same time as all of this is that there's this astronaut who is attacked by like this space goddess, like this daughter of space character, and she like rips his ship apart, and he's about to die. Everyone else in the ship is dead. He's about to die in space, and she saves him, and she gives him some of her power. She's like, so he can do everything she can do, and they go around space together fucking shit up. They're like this like power couple, but they like kill and murder and like do all kinds of crazy shit, right? So then what happens is you get this character, Rav, I think it's Rav, who flies Starburner, which is a spaceship. It gets so complicated. So
yeah, it's really real convoluted.
I'm not sure if this is the case, but Rav is the character in the first song, Walter, who becomes Commander Cosmo. So the second song on a crescendo is Walter singing to his son, who I think might be Rav. I really have no idea. But so Rav flies the Starburner ship to this star that Commander Cosmo is sleeping in that turned out to be a prison, and he throws a bomb at the sun that Commander Cosmo was in and makes it go supernova. Commander Cosmo busts out and then punches the giant space whale in the face.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, right? So he punches the space whale in the face, and then Rav is like, mate, these two space gods, this daughter of space and this guy, are like ripping the cosmos apart. Go stop them.
So they go fight them.
So then the final sort of climax is that Commander Cosmo fights the daughter of space and the astronaut, but he drags the astronaut away far enough in space that he loses his connection to the daughter of space and he just like dies because he's got no more power.
Yeah.
And then I think he like befriends I'm not sure. Then the daughter of space is no longer a threat for some reason. I'm not sure. But while that's happening, Steam Powered Giraffe arrive. The whole time they're telling stories to each other about what's happening, like they're singing these songs.
Yeah.
But while that's happening, they arrive at the space giant.
Yeah.
And then they have a guitar duel. Where the space giant has a guitar made out of the cosmos, and they have like the most epic guitar duel of all time.
Yeah.
And then he loses and like shrinks down. I think he loses and he cries, and when he's crying, he makes an ocean in this world that he's been eating. And so then, yeah, I know, it's still going.
Real Tenacious D shit.
It's crazy. And so then he disappears. So he shrinks down into nothing and goes back to his own dimension. And then Wink takes the robots back to their world, back to Earth.
Yep.
And while that's happening, Commander Cosmo, he's just defeated the Daughter of Space. They're on the same side now, and he's radioing back to the fleets of Earth, and he's like, guys, there's something out here. We need to recruit some heroes, and they're like, who did you have in mind? And he's like, everybody. And so we get a song in between that where there's like, I'm not sure how, this is where I get really confused. So there's a character, I think it's the astronaut. When he dies, he becomes like a necro space god thing. Like, I don't know though. Or he's someone different, and he has a song where he like orchestrated everything, and he like created Commander Cosmo, and he did all this stuff, but I have no idea who he is or what his connection is.
It's Commander Snoke.
Yes, the big bad, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know what that has to do with the rest of it. So that's when I get really confused, and I've been listening to this for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So like,
it's
fucking complicated. Like, it's really complicated storytelling.
Yeah, it's they do a really good job in their songs of kind of breaking between sort of, I guess, I don't want to say pointless fanfare, but just song and like important story bits that you should pay attention to.
The Sky Sharks song. That's just a dumb song. That's like a dumb thing that happens, but it's not the same as like Commander Cosmo, which tells a story about a thing that's happening. Yeah, and
it's a lot of it's through just the way the songs are written and how,
like, even sonically, like they're the ones that are really important are often like a little bit slower. They're less like poppy.
Yeah. They've got a bit less backing track, a bit more vocals.
Yeah, they're sort of much more reduced to the.
A lot of the time, sometimes they're just spoken.
Yeah, there's my favorite one is Burning in This. One of my favorite tracks. Well, I have a lot on that album because it's a really long album. It's like 2 hours long.
Yeah, it's obscene. But that's why I've only been able to get through it a couple of times.
But the track Burning in the Stratosphere is super like weird. It's weirdly constructed because it's so dark. Like, because it's about this character who's in like I think they're burning up on re-entry or something. And it's like super weird and like dark and strange sounding. Like it sounds weird. Like it doesn't have like a normal, songs usually will have like a melody or whatever. This has like 3 or 4 melodies that kind of it shifts between.
Yeah.
Till it gets to the end of the song, so it feels more linear.
It's a 3-act structure essentially.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But it's a song, which is like such a cool idea. I don't know, like that's so that's so inventive of an idea to do like a whole album like that as well.
Yeah.
And then you have
because they've always kind of hinted at it, them wanting to do sort of a larger universe.
Which, because like they have that in the comics or whatever. Yeah. But then even to have, because they have characters that have existed in this world. Like you've got like Rex Moxley, Albert Alexander.
Rex Moxley, the best character ever.
The best character ever. You've got like the Suspender Man, who's the creepiest fucking character. You got like the Ghost Grinder.
He's the one with the shoes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, hang on. He's the one with the suspenders and the banjo.
Who's the one with the real nice shoes?
That's the fancy shoes song. I don't know who the character is, but yeah.
I think Rabbit has the fancy.
No, you
shoes.
might be thinking of the Roller Skate King. I don't know. Maybe it's Rabbit. I don't know. The Roller Skate King's a great character.
If you haven't listened to their albums, we're not fucking around with you right now.
It's legitimate. Like
these characters all exist.
It's super deep mythos for something that is insane. Like it's mental. My favorite character is Ghost Grinder because he's the creep. Ghost Grinder or Suspender Man because they're super creepy.
I love Rex Moxley just because
he's a good badass cowboy.
He's just a real good shooter.
He's a real good shot, mate.
Just because of when you
he rides a mechanical horse.
Yeah.
That he built and has a lightning gun on his arm.
And he shot when he was shooting cans off a fence. He shot the nails out of the fence.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And the fence fell down.
Yeah, it's
and
so
the cows escaped.
How good?
It's just like what? Why not?
And then there's one where he disarmed 40 bandits by
shooting into their barrels,
but it's like with one bullet in the
he
so
shot
good.
a single bullet,
like ricochets. It's so cool. So they have all these characters, so they built up this world that exists, but they haven't really like before Mark III. They didn't really attempt to like connect any of it.
No, it was all very sort of scattered. But
Mark III was like that because that was when you get that was a real introduction of the band in the world. Because they'd introduced the world before, but this was like, okay, Steam Powered Giraffe exists in this world. And you get
a big part of that was Mark III introduced a lot more of Walter.
Yes.
And when they introduced, what's his name?
Steve Negretti.
Yeah, and
Hatchworth.
Hatchworth.
Hatchworth was a big story.
Hatchworth's, his song, which was his sort of like intro into the band, was like the first sort of real story.
Yeah.
Base. It's also technically, canonically, the first and the start of the timeline, you could argue.
Well,
because it's when Hatchworth joins, and it's when Steam Powered Giraffe, as it is now, starts.
So it's like the start of the chronological, of the chronology
Obviously,
of the
there's
band.
like Rex Moxley, which is before all them.
But those are just like, I feel like those are just characters in the world.
Yeah.
This is like the start, like you build up a world and you put people in it. It's like the difference between like appendices and Lord of the Rings and like
and the actual
Hobbit.
Books. Yeah.
The Hobbit is like you've got characters in it, but you've got before that it was more of just like the appendices were building up.
Yeah.
And now we have the band in the world doing stuff like they're taking action. The really interesting thing about that is Hatchworth arrives and then you get that album covers a long period of time. Like Mark III covers the lifetime of a girl who grows up. She listens to the band as a kid. She grows up, has a daughter. She dies, and then the daughter... Well, I don't know if she dies. She gets older, and then the daughter sees the band leaving for space. And that's the end of Mark III.
Yeah.
And which is actually about halfway through the Vice Quadrant. So they do this because when the robots leave for space, that's when they get in Wink and they cheer one up. So Bleak Horizons, which is the song where that happens, is... when the robots leave for space at the end of Mark III, but that chronologically happens about halfway through Vice.
I think with
track 4, Wink the Satellites, when they leave.
I think with Mark III, I don't think they realized the scale.
Well, I think they did, because they talk about, that whenever they talk about the Vice Quadrant, they've been writing it for, years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely elements of Mark III which make a lot more sense now with Vice Quadrant.
For sure.
Namely the intro.
Yes, because then
the weirdly placed intro song.
Because it turns out that the whole thing takes place on a spaceship.
Yeah,
which is so.
Which the intro to Mark III, everyone just thought was a computer.
Yeah,
like some sort of funny. It was just a joke of Steve being the sound guy and
Yeah.
accidentally playing Mark III, even though it's technically, it's not meant to be out yet, even though it is. But now when you go back and it's one of those weird things where it's
You're like, oh, he's actually the engineer for the robots in the world playing music. He's like, he's a character in the world who is the engineer for the actual robots in that world who are the band. Like, it's so...
Yeah.
It really fucks with your head after a while, and it gets really complicated to, like, keep track of the different levels.
Yeah.
Because then there's, like, the overarching narrative of, like, the fact that there's, like, these robots have all this history where they were built for a war, but then... So they have, like, battle mode in them still, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
The spine was built for war.
Yeah.
Hatchworth was originally an oven.
Yep. Which is great.
And I think Rabbit...
Well, he's changed. They've changed.
Rabbit's
his,
different. Yeah.
They changed him because when he changed genders to Bonnie now.
Yeah, they retconned.
I can't think of how they did it.
I forget how they did it as well.
But the actual gender change in the comic was just like literally she just changed gender.
Yeah, it was just outlook. They were just like, what?
They were like,
female.
The person who plays the character changed gender, so it's whatever.
Yeah.
But in the canon, I think Bonnie got. He was breaking down, so he got repaired, but at the same time he was like, I want to be a girl for a while, and so he became
like, all right, sure.
Yeah. So I think that was because he's like the oldest one of the robots. He's like from the 30s or the 40s, like from the Industrial Revolution, I think. I'm not sure.
And the
Something
spine was really new.
He's from the future.
Yeah,
I think.
The spine's like the newest, and Hatchworth is just an oven.
Hatchworth is just an oven
that
came in a box that it was like
turned out to be a robot.
That you fill with steam. It's so and then you've got because Walter built the robots. So Walter built a giant steam-powered giraffe to fight back the elephants in Africa. And at the same it's mental. And this album does a great job of bringing together this insane world they've built. And when you're listening to it, it makes sense, even though it's fucking mental. A lot of it's insane. But there's a point where, the Rav to the Rescue, which is a track toward the end of it, is, just a little, it's like a little minute and a half of a radio play, basically, where it's Rav flies to the prison where Commander Cosmo is, and with his assistant, Booplax, who is a character that says Booplax.
Yep.
He's like the Groot of that world.
Yeah.
They get the bomb primed, and then he throws it into the sun, and he saves Commander Cosmo. That is a track in the album that's just them. It's just a radio play. It's not even a song. But then the fucking thing that's really so that's a story that's happening. But then at the end of it, he's like, okay, it's time for some flying music, Gidget. Oh, this is my favorite song, and then he hits play, and then it plays a steam-powered giraffe song.
Yeah.
Which is Starlight, and you're like, what the fuck is...
You're like, wait a minute.
Huh? So the band exists in this world? That's the first time that you realize that the stories are all happening at once, in the same world.
Yeah.
But, fuck. It's just so complex, and they've done such a good job of weaving this, fucking tapestry of characters and stories through, music.
Yeah.
And, no one's done that before in that way.
I think the great thing is that even if you don't follow the mythos, it's still just good music.
Just good music, and it's fun.
It's just really fun.
And there's fun characters, and there's fun ideas, and
the vocals are incredible.
Yeah, and David Michael Bennett's voice
is probably one of the most talented people in the world.
Probably.
If you want the best introduction to Steam Powered Giraffe, look up their cover of Diamonds, or specifically the Spine's cover of Diamonds.
He was like,
because it's incredible.
He was like, how much range do I have?
It's like, it's like, what's the max and min range of my voice?
Mental.
And it's insane.
That and
he takes the
because he does both parts. He does
both the. It's
he does
just
the high
obscene.
Bit and the low bit.
Literally in the same breath.
Yeah.
He would just switch on a dime.
It's crazy. And seeing them do stuff live when he does that is just insane. I think Fire is a great example. That's one of my favorite songs.
Oh yeah, because it's one of his.
It's one of David Michael Bennett's songs that he wrote way back in the day that he's repurposed.
And they covered it in...
They covered it at a live concert, and they've added it into the Vice Quadrant as part of the story, which is
because
awesome.
that was like the...
That's how Walter becomes Commander Cosmo.
Yeah.
Is in that incident, which is so cool.
Because when that song came out, everyone was like, "Wow, this is really cool." But most people were like, it's not part of
the mythos.
Steam Powered Giraffe, so people just considered it a good song.
Yeah,
but now it's technically.
But they've kind of written
so
toward
it's like,
it. It's really cool.
Because the live version they played had some tweaks from the original.
Yeah.
Because the original was just
David Michael Bennett.
was just him, and then they covered it at a live show, and it was literally the best version there is.
It's pretty amazing.
But
then that's part of the canon. But the cool thing about that is that, they talk about the fact that they've always wanted to do a space opera album, so they've been writing these songs for many years. So you get one of the best, I don't know if it's the best, but it's a song that it gives me a lot of emotions, because it's so, it's so perfectly put together, and it's so delightfully just nice, is the last song on the album, which is the whale song, where Steam Powered Giraffe is heading back home.
Yeah.
And everything is over, and they think the big bad's dead, but it turns out there's still something else out there that was behind everything. But they're heading back home, and the fight's over. The duel's done, and Bunny Rabbit sees these space whales, and is like, "Hey guys, come and check out these space whales." And Spine and Hatchworth are busy because Hatchworth's like, "I'm gonna go try sleeping for the first time ever." Whatever. And Spine's playing an arcade game, and then eventually, in the next track, Rabbit starts to play a song and sing a song about the whales, and it's the whale song. And then they join in, and it's one of those songs where, when you're incredibly emotional, and you're like, I need to listen to something emotional to feel good.
Yeah.
That's one of those songs that I put on, because it's so, the melody and the vocals and the way that it's constructed in the world and everything about it is so perfect. And it's just one of those things where every time I listen to it, I'm like, okay, that made my day better.
You're like, yeah,
my day is just better because of it.
Yeah.
And that's the real power of the worlds that they build, is they can do shit like that. It's not like, oh, there's this crazy hero. It's just they're in a spaceship and they see these cool space whales and they sing a song about it. That's not a complicated idea, but because you got the world behind it, it makes it so much more complete.
It makes it more real, even though it's space whales.
Yeah.
It's even in the previous album, there's so much sort of world building that makes every song feel, even though they're all pretty separate and they weren't really tied together at that point, it makes them still feel connected.
Yeah.
Because you're you have all
you build up the mythos in your head.
Yeah.
Because you got, you're like, okay, well, I've got this pirate and this cowboy and this, this character here and this hero here and this person here, and you kind of start to connect dots.
Yeah.
The really interesting thing, I think, about the potential for what they're doing is that it's sort of the same thing as, someone described it to me a few months ago as, they're building, the Steam Powered Giraffe universe, and eventually they'll have, an album where everything comes together.
And it all makes sense.
And, the Suspender Man will meet Commander Cosmo, and,
yeah.
Captain Albert Alexander.
And it turns out Rex Moxley's from the future, and we meet him.
And it's the only thing that they need to do that is time travel, and that will happen eventually, because they've done...
Well, because Spine's from the future.
Spine's from the future, they've got space now, they've got dimension travel. All we need is time travel, and you can bring all of these crazy disparate things together into this amazing, world that they've built.
You can just fancy shoes for everyone.
You can just do so many fun things with it, and it's just it's a good time. There's not a lot of content where, you can just sit down and have a great time every time.
There's literally no other band like Steam Powered Giraffe.
No.
Literally nothing.
Nothing is even close. The closest thing is, Professor Elemental, but even that isn't that close.
No, it's not.
And they're just, I don't know, it's fucking special, and if you haven't, go listen to them. They're on YouTube. They have some great videos and stuff. They're so talented. And what they've done is so impressive, and if you can learn anything from it, sure, but even if you don't, it's just a good time.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that we like to share with you guys, because it's
beautiful stuff.
It's great, and fuck, I wish we thought of that,
Yeah.
Not that we're anywhere near as talented, nor can we sing, but
I think there is a lot of just raw talent. In their group,
but
it's just obscene.
The thing about it is, it's raw talent, but then they have worked so hard over David Michael Bennett and Bunny Bennett have been doing this for years.
It's been a good. I think I found them in 2011,
and they were playing at the zoo.
They were playing
years before. They have been doing this
before they had anything, and then they got to Magfest a couple of times.
They've been doing this for fucking 8, and they've put everything they have into it, and they've built this thing that is just amazing. And if you, I don't know, just fucking listen to it.
Just go onto YouTube right now.
Yeah, I guess a good starting point is either Diamonds or
Diamonds, Honeybee.
Honeybee's good, Soliton's good.
Just anything from the 2 Cent Show.
Yeah, 2 Cent Show.
Or Mark 3.
Oh, actually, they've got a few Vice Quadrant videos up that are pretty good.
Yeah.
Starlight's great. That's a
the
great
2
video.
Cent Show is their second album.
So yeah, so it's
and it's mostly just standalone good songs.
Yeah, and then Mark 3 is like the sort of. Actually, I really like Mark 3.
Mark 3 is my favorite.
My favorite's still Vice Quadrant, just because it's the more I listen to it, the more I get from it.
Yeah, Mark 3 is sort of the just listen to the intro song for Hatchworth and you'll understand it.
Yeah,
it's that song definitely. Is pretty.
It's pretty great.
It's a good mix of just being a good song and also some of their hilarious world building, and
also like how talented they are. When they do that live, you're like, is that like?
Oh yeah, no, the first time
the vocals of that particular video.
The first time I saw them in their music video, I thought the footage was sped up. I thought they were performing at half speed and the footage was sped up because it just looks so unnatural.
It's so unnatural.
It's so uncanny. But it's just live.
They're just talented. They're just so talented. Yeah, I don't know. Like we should probably stop gushing. But yeah, get behind it. We love it.
They're really good.
If you guys have any questions, comments, or tell us what you thought of it, you can hit us up in the YouTube comments if you're watching that there, or you can send us an email, david@dcm.works or podcast@dcm.works, or you can hashtag AFApod. You can hit us up on Twitter, at @DCM_works. We're on YouTube,
Twitter, Facebook,
Redbubble.com/people/DCMworks if you want some t-shirts. Shout out to our amazing Patreon sponsors, Brendan A. McQuaid, doing God's work, Yoep Kumans. You guys are awesome.
Thanks for the money, fam.
Yeah, you help us do what we love doing. So, I get behind. They're so great.
They're very talented.
I love them.
Buy their albums. Give them money.
Yeah, give them money. They're on Bandcamp. They're cheaper than iTunes. That's where I buy them. Yeah, get behind it. And buy
a solid copy if you want.
Yeah. Huh?
Buy a hard copy.
Yeah.
CD.
Oh, yeah. They do vinyl as well, which I'm keen.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, get behind it, and we will see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.
It's amazing. Yeah. The visuals are very, well done. And, the gameplay is super fun. And, because those three things are there, it's exceptionally good.
I could do it in a heartbeat and make millions, but it would feel like just gouging my soul out.
Yeah, Jurassic Park's a little more like DDR.
If Shrek is a fairy tale creature, can he actually own land and want to kick them off? Where did that come from? You have to make a lot of shit up to make good art.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it.